Today I'm going to make my tea chicken recipe. T stands for turmeric. It's fairly mild, not so spicy, but it's very, very yellow. And I make it with rice and chicken legs. And I've got 3 chicken legs here that I'm going to cut up. And what's in the recipe is about 4 cloves of garlic, and you don't have to have any mustard, but there's about a heaping teaspoon of mustard seeds. I've got some celery. I've got 2 potatoes boiling in here, and about a stalk of celery, and I've got about this much leeks, and I'll show you how I cut them up. I've got a grated carrot, a small onion sliced finely, and I've got about 4 or 5 mushrooms. The way with my tea chicken is the way a lot of people cut their leeks like this. I make sure when I cut it that there's no dirt in it. I wash it thoroughly because a lot of dirt tends to get into a lot of the leeks. And the way I cut it is like this. Okay, and then I slice it up for this recipe like this. Okay, so I have nice little bite-sized chunks. And leeks are quite oniony in flavoring. The spices that I'm using is turmeric, salt and pepper, chili flakes, and cumin. That's basically it. And yeah, what else? Rice. Oh, I forgot. Ginger. When I fry the oil up with the garlic, I take 3 pieces of thinly sliced ginger and I fry them in there as well. And the mustard seed faith. Okay, I was just gonna talk about rice. Oh, it's under here. There's 1 cup of rice in here. What I do is I put a cup of rice and I put some cold water in it. Okay, that's my 1 cup. I rinse the rice. If you just let it pour out, the rice should, sit at the bottom. And I like to rinse the rice because I don't know where it's been or how it's been processed. Okay, and then I add 1.5 cup of cold water. Now, if I wanted 2 cups of water, then so 1.5 cold water, a little bit of salt in with it. So for every cup of rice, 1.5 cups of cold water, and we'll be plugging that in. I've said Camalina oil a few times. I've used olive oil, I've used grapeseed, I've used many kinds of oils. And Camalina oil, it's a cold pressed oil here in Canada, and it's probably the best oil I've ever worked with. Now when I'm mixing salads to cooking, I've used this stuff. It's got amazing stuff in it. Of course I've got to, pull back. It's got omega 6, omega 3, it's got vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, iron, it's cold pressed, it's an amazing oil. It also has a very high flash point, as does my potatoes. And remember, I'm cooking in glass, so when I bring it to a boil, I bring it down. Had a really tough day today, so I'm not all together, but I really wanted to make this meal for my wife and I, and we'll get started here in a minute. The way I cut the chicken for my tea chicken recipe is a little bit different than just taking the chicken apart. If you notice in a lot of grocery stores, they flip over the chicken and they give you a whole bunch of fat. Now, you know, people freak out at me because I cook a lot, most of the time with fat on my chicken, and they say that's so unhealthy. Well, you know, if you knew growing practices of chicken in general, it's just disgusting. If you can get organic chicken, that's better. But when I eat food, I always pray to the Creator and I say, thank you that the best of the nutrition comes in me and the rest gets flushed, because I love to eat, and right now we don't have any chickens on the go where we can have our own. So I find the joint, I break that apart, I find where the thigh is, and I find the joint. Okay, so I've got 3 pieces here, and I got this is a very sharp knife, so. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing, whoops, there it is, where's the thigh? Such a tiny thigh. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I cut them into little chunks, right? And to get rid of the tops, and so I cut them into sort of pieces like this. Okay, that's what I'm going to be frying. And I do the same with the thigh. Oh, just got spattered with blood. Cut that. The thighs are okay. And when you're doing a cut, if you've got a cleaver, get your hand out of the way as you're coming down on it, so you don't, you know, send me an email saying you just lost your finger. Okay, so that's it. I'll be separating the fat, and what I'm going to do, I boiled 2 potatoes with small bite-sized pieces. Okay, the pieces are quite small. Okay, that's going to go in the mix in the tea chicken recipe. Okay, so I'm going to wait till that's cooked, and I'll be adding them a little later. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to add some Camalina oil and cook with that. And I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've got 3 or 4 cloves. I think there's about 4 cloves in here. Frying up in Camalina oil. I'm going to add just a little bit more. And with that, I've got 3 thinly sliced pieces of ginger, which I'm going to take out later. I just want it to infuse into the oil and the food. And as it's boiling, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lid on it in a sec, but I'm going to be putting the mustard seed in here, roll them around a little bit, and then I'm going to cover it, because what happens is the mustard seed starts popping, and I'm going to turn it down to about half and hide about half, and they're going to pop a bit. You can hear it. It's like mini popcorn. But what it does is I have a wonderful vindaloo recipe, which I'm going to share sometime. The chicken vindaloo. And but you can smell it. It's just, I don't know, it has this absolutely wonderful smell. Okay, and I'm going to put in my onion now, since a lot of that is popped. Remember, I just put it under a little bit under half. Okay. So I've got my ginger, my onion, and because I want the onion and stuff to be fairly pulverized by the end of the meal. And it's turned down to bring it to medium. And I am going to throw in the chicken. Now, if you have, my favorite really is a cast iron skillet, and I don't have it here. But I'm going to take all the pieces that I cut up, which is 3 legs and thighs. And I'm going to start turning them very quickly because what happens is they'll stick to the bottom. Now, somebody told me a long time ago, an East Indian man, he was cooking, and he cut up the meat like this for, I think it was a vindaloo or a meal. And he said to me, do you know why I cut up my meat like this and don't skin the meat and whatnot? And I said, why? Outside of the fact that in an organic chicken, that the marrow and the flavor of the chicken will go into the rest of the meal. He said that I always notice that my family eats a lot slower because they have to take the bones out, which I thought was pretty cool. And when they eat slower, they eat less. So, it's on medium, and what I'm going to do is add about a teaspoon of turmeric. That's probably about a heaping, it's about a level teaspoon. It's hard sometimes because I just generally cook. And what happens, make sure you have an apron on. If this comes on a white t-shirt, you're hooped. So you can get turmeric if you've got an Indian area or in your grocery store. Might try and get fresh turmeric. And as you notice, it's getting nice and yellow. I'm turning up just a bit more and add a little bit of touch of water just to get those spices blending in. And I'm actually gonna try to brown the chicken in here. So I have it at sort of a high heat, and my potatoes are pretty much done here. I've got it at about just over medium. And stay with your chicken, and you'll notice the skin will begin to brown. Now remember, if you're using cast iron and some of it cakes at the bottom, if you add a little bit of water and mix it around, don't try and get a layer going down there, because that's your spices. You want to, okay. So I'll let that cook for a little bit. And all I've got really left to add, which is going to come a little later, are my leeks, carrot, and mushroom. And I'll let this brown. Okay, I've been frying this for about 10-15 minutes. As you can see, we've got a nice mix of, and there's a little bit of stuff on the bottom, which is taking a little bit, but it's a good sign when the blood disappears from the bone. That lets you know that it's cooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my vegetables, which is the leeks and celery, my grated carrot, mushrooms, okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of, you can see the spice of yellow is just starting to bathe into the mushrooms and the other stuff. I'm going to add a little bit of water. What that'll do is it'll get rid of the baking on the bottom, allowing the spices to mix around. And to warm up the vegetables. The only thing I wanted to overcook was the onion. I'm going to add a little bit more. So the other spices I'm going to add right now. And that's probably about a teaspoon of cumin. And a dash or so, or teaspoon or so of, and to taste, right, of chili flakes. And a touch more. So I'm going to mix that in. You can put salt in to taste. And as you can see on the bottom of the skillet, a lot of that spices that have been cooking on the bottom are being released from the water. So it's just warming up the vegetables. That's all I really want. And what the reason I pulverize the onion is, and when I add the water, it helps thicken this. You can see it's like a gravy. That's why I pulverize the onions in here. So I'm just stirring it in. The meat's been cooked. Okay. And so I've got the cumin. Put some salt in to taste. I'm sure that I'm going to put some in here. I don't normally like, I don't know, it's funny. And that's cooked in there. I try not to cook with salt a lot, but I notice I've been watching some of my videos and I do add a bit. And then I add the 2 potatoes, okay? Just the heat of the pan itself has been... Okay, so I'm going to turn it down to about almost a simmer. This is a great tiny home meal because you can basically cook everything on 2 pieces. Probably add a little bit more water just to make sure that everything just blends in nicely. Okay. Okay. So the vegetables are just warmed up, and the potato I just mixed in here. And I usually have this with rice, but it's got the potato, so you can eat it this way, but I tend to like to have some rice with it. There's my tea chicken recipe. And you know, it's on a nice rainy day like today, it's a yummy, comfortable, cozy meal after a hard day.